Let's start at the moment everything changed.
December 10, 1996, I woke up and I was experiencing a major hemorrhage in the left half of my brain. Over the course of 4 hours, I could not walk, talk, read, write, or recall any of my life. I essentially became an infant in a woman's body.
How would they use that technique, that understanding of the four characters, to get out of that place of, I don't know why I'm here. I'm stuck. I'm spinning my wheels. I don't know what my purpose is exactly.
I'm bored. Life has no meaning.
How does one get out of that?
Enough is never enough. More is never enough because there's always more to be had. When it comes to anger or really any of the deep emotion, we're programmed to have emotional reactivity so that we can protect ourselves from information in the present moment that reminds our biological system that that was a danger in the past. From the beginning to the end where that has flushed through me and flushed completely out of me takes less than 90 seconds.
What a miracle that the brain can even do that.
Jill Bolte Taylor is a friend and Harvard-trained neuroanatomist who survived a massive stroke, and in witnessing her own mind unravel and rebuild, uncovered a new understanding of consciousness and resilience. Her TED Talk, My Stroke of Insight, became one of the most viewed of all time, with over 30 million views. Named one of Time's 100 most influential people in the world in 2008 and returning guest on our show, she brings together rigorous science and soulful clarity. Her whole brain living framework is essential for anyone in 2025 ready to rebalance, refocus, and flourish from a foundation of full brain power.
If I could have any wish in the world, it would be to bring people into that awareness of awe of what we are as these magnificent biological creatures and how precious the time we have here with one another really is. The whole soul says, oh, because I know who I am when I'm mad. And I'm so good at being mad because I have been mad since I came flying out of the womb and I first started screaming, and I know how to scream really good. It is so good. I do it so well, and I just so satisfying, and I don't want to stop it, and I want to rethink those thoughts and re-stimulate that loop and keep it going because yummy, yummy, yummy. And then the telephone rings. So then it's like, oh, okay. Hello.
How did your stroke teach you, and what did it teach you about the mind? Things that most of us don't realize until maybe it's too late or we never realize it.
The biggest, most important lesson anyone who goes through any kind of traumatic event is
burn the playbook, own the game. Hey!
If you're enjoying the XE podcast and the conversations we're having here, hit subscribe. And if you want to go deeper, check out the XE newsletter. Twice a week, I share strategies for building income, impact, and purpose, plus free access to our live deep dives. I think you'll love it. Jill, thanks for coming on. You are by far one of my favorite people to speak to. This is not the first time, obviously. So we've spent entirely too much time even before we recorded because there's so much that I would love to talk to you about, but we had to press record. So here's my first question. For those people who haven't seen the episode that we recorded together earlier, it's probably, I don't know, a year ago, maybe two. Let's start at the moment everything changed. How did your stroke teach you about, and what did it teach you about the mind? Things that most of us don't realize until maybe it's too late or we never realize it.
You know, I think the biggest, most important lesson anyone who goes through any kind of traumatic event is how precious life is. Life is this amazing experience. I am this phenomenal collection of cells that have diversified into all these different abilities. And so I look at myself now as this magnificent collection of cells that has language, has mobility, has dexterity, has vision, has audio, I think it just really wakes us up to the wonder of what I am as a living being. And, that gets lost in translation into a life because, now I'm a human, now I'm a woman, now I'm a this, now I'm a that, now I'm another. But it's not the celebration of what I am and what I can be in the world, but it is now what am I and what am I doing?
So there's a lot of categories, a lot of boxes, a lot of a lot of things to conform to, and they're not necessarily bad. It's just is, right?
Yeah.
But can you take us, for those of you who don't know your absolutely stunning, not only backstory, but you going through that story of getting a stroke, because as an anatomist of the brain, am I saying that correctly? Anatomist,
Yes.
or is it neural anatomist, or is it brain
Neuro?
anatomist?
Yes, neuro,
Neural
nervous
anatomist, yeah.
system.
So the fact that you went through a stroke as a neural anatomist, as a scientist, can you give us just a little bit of a glimpse of what happened? And then we'll go back to the thing that you said, this changed everything for me.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I'm a trained neuroanatomist, which means I study the anatomy of the brain. I think about the brain as cells and as cells in circuit with one another. And then those circuits manifest some kind of skill set. And then those skill sets package themselves together as personalities and abilities in the world. So I go all the way down to the anatomy of the brain and these beautiful cells that are organized in such a way that we have every ability, because every ability we have is because we have brain cells that perform that function. So I was teaching and performing research at Harvard Medical School, and I was teaching neuroanatomy. So I was training future physicians about how does sensory information come in? Where does it go? What does it do? How does the auditory system and the visual system, how do they process? What's going on in the emotional groups of cells? How is it I have the ability to have anger, or I have the ability to have love, or I have the ability to have any ability that I have. So I think in circuitry, in these
Yeah.
circuits. So on the morning of December 10, 1996, I woke up and I was experiencing a major hemorrhage in the left half of my brain. And it was, I have low blood pressure naturally. So it was just seeping out. So it started with a small groups of cells. And then over the course of 4 hours, I could not walk, talk, read, write, or recall any of my life. I essentially became an infant in a woman's body. And through the eyes of a brain scientist who thinks in terms of cells and circuits, I actually got to watch each of these circuits go offline. Paralysis of the right arm. Well, I know where group of cells that is in the left hemisphere. Language, problems with speaking. I know what groups of cells. So from my perspective, it was a fascinating experience and awareness. Oh my gosh. I had read all about this. I had learned all about this in books. I had seen it all in brains, but to actually have the experience of these groups of cells going offline, circuit by circuit, ability by ability, it was, from my perspective, fascinating. And then it took 8 years for me to completely recover circuit by circuit by circuit on purpose, using the groups of cells in my right hemisphere that were still online.
So 8 years. What a miracle that the brain can even do that.
What a
To re-
miracle that I can speak to you at all.
it's incredible, isn't
I
it?
mean, any two of us, to me, I think it is amazing that any two of us can communicate at all. I mean,
Yeah.
like as we first came on and I said, oh, we're sharing the same color. We're both in
Yeah.
some shade of orange.
Yeah.
Well, imagine there's a group of cells inside of our brain that my visual system said, oh my, made the association, and then it came out of my mouth. And you said, yes, isn't that great? So I mean, what it takes at a cellular level for us to be human is this magnificent miracle that if I could have any wish in the world, it would be to bring people into that awareness of awe of what we are as these magnificent biological creatures, and how precious the time we have here with one another really is.
So I love how you speak about this, and I've told you this before, but I'll repeat it here in this episode, is that you are a scientist and you speak as a poet.
Oh.
And that's just, I find this to be this incredible quality that you have. And I think that's why when you speak of this, in your famous TED talk, it became one of the biggest viewed, I think 11 million views or something like that in the world, is because you have this very specific way of explaining something so complex and scary even. So I want to ask you a question. So we all want to feel that way, the way you describe is that we're all, we're a miracle.
Yeah.
We should fully embrace the uniqueness of us, the wonderfulness in us, and we should live a life a certain way. So if we can sort of reverse engineer this a little bit and use the distinct characters in the brain that you describe in the Full Brain Living book, that I find to be fascinating, almost like a council you have inside your brain. But how would somebody who is just a normal person, right, stressed out, maybe burned out a bit, maybe a bit stuck, how would they use that technique, that understanding of the four characters, to get out of that place of, I don't know why I'm here. I'm stuck. I'm spinning my wheels. I don't know what my purpose is exactly.
Right. I'm bored. Life has no meaning.
Yeah. How does one get out of that?
Yeah. So when we think about the brain, because this is all going to go to the anatomy of the brain. When we think about the anatomy of the brain, we have emotional cells inside of each hemisphere, our right hemisphere and our left hemisphere, and we have thinking tissue in each hemisphere. And an emotion or an experience, a feeling, it's completely different tissue than thinking tissue. 1 + 1 = 2. There's no emotion there. That's just a cognitive reality. An A is an A. A C is a C. So that's thinking tissue, where when I'm feeling my anger, or I'm feeling resentment, or I'm feeling jealousy, or I'm feeling love, whatever I'm feeling, it's a completely different group of cells inside of our brain. Okay. So as I had the experience of a hemorrhage in the left hemisphere, it wiped out the thinking and the emotional tissue of the left hemisphere. But I still had the right hemisphere, thinking and emotional tissue. So to the normal medical community, the only portion of our brain that is conscious, that which makes me a conscious, rational thinker, is the left thinking tissue. The portion that is rational, it analyzes, it organizes. The left hemisphere has linearity across time. So I have a past. I can remember why I chose the shoes I chose to put on this morning. So it has very specific skill sets that manifest as very specific personality. So I know what my conscious, left-thinking personality feels like. And I give her a name. I call her Helen. Hell on wheels. She gets it done. She's busy. She has language. She knows, she defines the boundaries of where I begin and where I end. I know that these glasses are not of me, but that this nose that they sit on, that is of me. Well, how do I know that? I know that because this group of tissue defines all of this for me. It also gives me then language, and so I can communicate with the external world inside of a social norm. And the social norm defines what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. This is also my stress circuitry, because now I have to take this mass of organic conglomeration that I call me and fit myself. And how do I fit inside of the hierarchies of that external world that says I'm good, I'm worthy, I'm better than you because I'm higher on the hierarchy, or I want to be higher on the hierarchy so I can be better than you. Because it also has this group of cells that says me, I'm an individual and I'm separate from you. So in that hierarchy, I'm finding stress because enough is never enough. More is never enough because there's always more to be had. And there's always other people below me on that hierarchy trying to move me out of my position, right? So that's stressful. So as you describe your person who we're talking to, then is how do I take this individual and I help them see what part of their brain they're running. And so they're running their left circuitry, their left emotion of I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I need to be better, I always want more, I'm not happy with you, I'm mad at you from 5 years ago, I have fear of the future because I have linearity across time and the great unknown, and oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And so now I'm running all that stress circuitry. But it's important to notice that's circuitry inside of our brain. Okay, well, if that mind that never shuts up, that character one, rational thinking brain is always verbal and always being the monkey mind or whatever people call it inside of themselves, when that noise, that is noise about the external world. Well, I don't live in the external world, and I don't live in the past, and I don't live in the future. I live in the present moment. But the left brain doesn't care so much about the present moment. It's worried about the past and it's worried about the future because it has linearity across time. So the first thing is how do I step out of the consciousness of the past or the future and of that personality of that monkey mind that drives me into something else, somewhere else, and actually just come here and start tapping my fingers. So just tap your fingers on the table. And then tap like follow my rhythm here. Go tap tap, pause, tap tap, pause. Now go tap tap tap, pause, pause, tap tap tap. See, now I've automatically, if you're doing that with me, you have to do that in the present because
So
you have
what
to listen.
you're saying is you can train yourself almost like to give a distress signal or a pattern interrupt signal that you can literally make up and go, okay, I'm gonna tap SOS in Morse code on the table.
Exactly.
And that works. That interrupts the pattern.
Or I can listen to a bird.
Mm-hmm.
I can listen to the song of a bird in the present moment.
In the present moment, yeah.
But I'm purposely bringing my mind to hear that sound in the present moment. Or
that's what I do. That's what I do with walking meditations. I go I have this trail, and a lot of time I'm listening to something that's helpful, inspiring, or whatever, relaxing. But the walking meditation is about full presence. So you take no headset, no sound, and you just take in, and you start realizing that the forest is full of life and sound. And all this stuff is happening right now. Smell, exactly.
Smell. We don't smell in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We smell right here, right now.
We
feel humidity right here, right now. We feel sweat pouring down our face right here, right now. We feel the weight of our clothing. We hear the ticking of our watch. I'm not making judgment about, I'm listening to my watch ticking. I'm actually listening to the ticking of the watch. And maybe then I start to move my body to the ticking of the watch.
So you can interrupt that. Yeah. I think, did you say to me, I think you did, is that when you're in something triggered you, right? Somebody said something rude, you got an email that doesn't sit, or makes you worried, that triggers that thing, that biologically you can't really do much about it, but sort of the hormones that flood your system, they run out and you have a chance to interrupt that and change course. What can you remind me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when it comes to anger or really any of the deep emotions, it happens with grief, it happens with anger, it happens with anything where you're starting to feel it in whatever body part you feel it in. For me, it's my chest. So as soon as and this is a group of cells, and this is a group of cells in the brain that is designed to detect a threat or a danger. So it is there for life preservation. That's most important. We're programmed to have emotional reactivity so that we can protect ourselves from information in the present moment that reminds our biological system that was a danger in the past. Or that because of what experience I've had in the past, this looks or smells or tastes or seems like enough like that I'm going to move into push away. Or
you're triggered, basically. Yeah,
that's right. So once that begins, I have the ability to observe myself having that experience. As soon as anything weird happens, and I begin to then absorb and observe myself being triggered. And once I am emotionally triggered, from the time I recognize a trigger, I feel stimulated to run my emotional reactivity. And then that stimulates hormonal systems in my brain, which dump and flood my brain with something like noradrenaline or adrenaline, depending on what the emotion is. From the beginning to the end, where that has flushed through me and flushed completely out of me, takes less than 90 seconds.
Yes, that was it.
And I call that the 90-second rule. And from a biological perspective, what that means is I can either get caught in the rage and I can rage at you, or I can hide from you, or I can do whatever the emotion is, or I can observe my own physiology running the loop and then feeling it flush out of me. And then I bring myself back into distraction away from running that circuit.
Okay, so let me ask you a quick question. This is so great, because I feel that it is, first of all, it's really great to know, hey, in 90 seconds, at least I have agency over this thing, right? I can actually interrupt, I can redirect, all of those things.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think the baseline of almost like an immersion in anxiety hormones for so many people, especially in the West, it's almost permanent, right? At least it feels that way.
It's because it's delicious.
Yeah,
imagine, go back to the last time you were like, Arr! I mean, there's something, and it's like,
it's delicious.
It's delicious. The whole soul
like
says,
that.
because I know who I am when I'm mad. And I'm so good at being mad, because I have been mad since I came flying out of the womb and I first started screaming, and I know how to scream really good. It is so good. I do it so well, and I just so satisfying. And I don't want to stop it. And you want me to stop it in 90 seconds? I don't want to stop it in 90 seconds. I want to rethink those thoughts and re-stimulate that loop and keep it going, because yummy, yummy, yummy. And then the telephone rings, and it's like, telephone rings. So then it's like, okay. Hello.
Hello.
Right. And then I have my little chat, and like, and then I put down the phone. And it's in that moment that I do my work, because I can wind right back up and go right back into that, what I was before, or I can say literally rescued by the bell.
Do you think it's a similar phenomenon with victimhood?
I think that victimhood is a cognitive process that's and an emotional that says, I am my trauma.
Yes.
And if
you can, the reason I ask you this question, let me specify, it's because it is delicious as well, because you're not responsible for anything.
Yeah, but
it's a comfortable place to be, actually.
It is comfortable, but it is, I think victimhood really interconnects with that deep, deep trauma that says, I have no power.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when we are born, we have no power. Mm-hmm. And we are so vulnerable. And as human beings, we are so vulnerable for so long. And the brain then adapts in different ways, and whether we choose dissociation or whether we choose various other ways of managing the phenomenon that I have no power and I am vulnerable to whatever is, then that's a core piece of circuitry inside of our brain. And
do you think people stay there out of fear of stepping out of it? Is it in your terms delicious, or is it? What was that?
I think they don't know what their choice is.
Okay, interesting.
That's all I know.
Mm-hmm.
If it's been so long and it's a physiological response,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it means to not do that. What does it even mean to not do that? So, but I think you're talking about a population of people who have experienced really, really deep trauma. And so let me take this then back to your original question. So if we have a person who is living a life and they're stressed and they don't have a lot of meaning in their life and they can't find their purpose and it just feels like they're on the go-around, the merry-go-round, what is my choice? If that's the only choice I know, then that's all I know to do and be, and I just keep reinforcing it because that's all I know. But if somebody wants to find meaning, if they want to find peace and they want to find purpose, then it's like, how do I step out of that stress circuitry of my left brain? How do I bring myself truly? How do I practice bringing my mind into the present moment with a recognition that, oh my God, I'm alive. I am alive. And one day I'm not going to be alive. And I'm this magnificent collection of cells. I mean, when was the last time you looked in the mirror and said, oh my gosh, look, I got hair on my head. Oh my gosh, look, I got a little scar right there because I got this skin. And oh my gosh, I got teeth so I can chew my food. And I got ears. And it was like, oh my gosh, look at all the things I am and I can do and how I can move and how I can be. And I have language. And oh my gosh, I can smell. Oh my gosh. And it's like, wow, there's just this big honking wow of what I am, not what I can do, who I am in the world, how I take this mass. And when I bring appreciation to that level of being, then all the little cells in my body are going, the cells in my liver, I say, thank you for filtering out all that food that I'm consuming and filtering out the good stuff and creating waste out of the bad stuff. Wow, that's like a wonder. And oh my gosh, I got kidneys and they filter my liquid. And so, cause I am a liquid being, and oh my gosh, I got a pancreas that has its rules. And oh my gosh, I have bladder capacity. Oh my gosh, bladder capacity. I mean, just thinking about bladder capacity.
Bladder capacity.
Goodness, we have bladder capacity. I mean,
what a
talk
miracle.
about one of the really important things that we generally don't think about.
We don't think of bladder capacity as a miracle. We don't. That's true. We just take it for granted, right?
Until you lose it. And then it's like, oh my gosh,
I wish I had it.
Bladder capacity to sleep. What do they need me to be in the world? How do I take the magnificence of what I am and beam me? I'm available for what? For what I'm good at. Well, what am I good at? Well, I'm good at A, B, C, D, E, and you might be really good at A, B, F, G, H, and someone else is good with X, Y, Z, and bring what you're good at into the world with joy. Because, oh my gosh, I'm good at this.
If you're thinking about building a personal brand, take the Xponential scorecard. It's free, takes under 5 minutes, and gives you a personalized report showing exactly where you are and what you're missing. This is actually it's a perfect segue to the question I had in my mind as you were speaking of those things, is that once you realize I am good at something, I can serve people with something, but I am here where I am, and it could be, a significant level of accomplishment. You have mastery. You went to college. You have, you teach at Harvard, or you build houses, or whatever. You play music, right? And but then you start seeing, with this expanded understanding of who you are in your very essence, a higher level of purpose and meaning, and the things that you want to do to contribute to the world. And what I find is that your sort of, your primal side of your brain will still attack you with those things because it feels dangerous, new, unexplored. There's no guaranteed results.
It's terrified.
It's totally terrifying. So what do we do with that? What do we do with that?
I think we accept it. And we say, my left brain comes online and says, okay, here's an example. Someone from Nova came to me and they said, Jill, we're going to create this new series and it's going to be about the brain. And we're thinking about, who we might like to host this. And you're on the list. And I said, okay. And so I had to audition for this. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And so, and what I learned very quickly is I read things that they write me as a script like this, and it's horrible, and I'm no good at it, and I am a total, you gotta wing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm no good at that.
I get it.
So
yeah.
it's like, So I'm horrible. So it was like, okay, cross that off the list. I don't even have to think about that anymore. And if I get more invitations, I can say, I'm an ad libber. I'm in the present, and I'm horrible at a script. So no, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the
The
invitation,
invitation,
but
yeah.
but no. And so
Okay, so
then,
let me give you another
so,
scenario.
but then I find, okay, well, let's say I'm really good at keynoting. And so
Yes.
then I just start putting out into the world, well, I'm a great keynoter. I'm a natural on stage. I love it. I'm a seasoned professional. I got a great sense of humor, and I'm ready to travel. And so I just embody that. And then all of a sudden, that message gets communicated out, and that's what I start attracting.
Okay, so there's a space in between. There's a space in between, right? One is, okay, I suck at this. I suck at teleprompters. That's clear. I'm actually the same way. I hate teleprompters.
I'm terrible.
I really, really do. Like, I do bullet point. Even when I speak into the camera, I do talking points because I can ad lib and I can riff, and it feels natural and organic, right?
Keeps you on track.
The points are just to keep me on track to the progression of thoughts that I wanted to share.
Yeah.
Now, there's the things that, okay, this is not me, this is me, but the me, for example, of keynoting, it requires sometimes additional skills.
Yeah.
They're not your natural skills.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying as well. So, and I think what I find is that that incremental addition of things that will get your main gift into the world, and without those additional supplemental, you know what, I need to stretch myself, your gift just doesn't get to the world, right? So what's maybe a brain trick or an approach or a mindset that will allow you to actually overcome that first dip? I want to go from point A to point B, but there's a dip in between of the things that I thought I didn't miss, but I actually missed those skills.
Okay, so let's say it's being a keynoter. I think that's a great example. Okay, so one, fear of stage fright. Do I have stage fright? Okay, if I have stage fright, how do I feel about my stage fright? Well, I need to go experience being in front of people. Another part of it is being able to talk about my subject material in such a way that it flows and it's interesting and it's entertaining and it excites me. Yep. If I bore me, I'm boring you. Right. So I need to go do it. Take baby steps.
Do it.
Go to a local school. Mm-hmm. Find an audience somewhere. There's always people who are looking for people to come in and talk about what excites you. Yeah. A boys and girls club, a high school, who knows what, but make yourself available and put yourself, a friend of mine, fantastic quote, something about, I haven't said this quote in a while, but it was something about, if you're living, the fruit out on the tree, you got to go out on the limb. That's where the fruit is.
Yeah, that's right.
Go out on the limb.
That's where it comes from.
Fruit is.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
It's a beautiful quote. So it's like, okay, if I'm going to put myself out there for something, I've got to go out on the limb. That's where the fruit is. Mm-hmm. And then you figure out, okay, well, then you get more and more comfortable being out on the limb. And someone else said, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space.
Okay. Those are
good. So get on the edge.
Yeah.
Everything is about the edge of growth, the edge of trying something new. Some of those things you're going to decide you really like. I am never going to sing in public. I admire you so much that you can do that. I sing, I write songs, but it will never happen in public because, I just, and I have occasionally, and it's like, really out on the edge, and it's like, but it's not something that I'm going to do all the time. But I try it to keep pushing my possibility. And, if I'm so good with myself and, and I don't view it as failure, I just view it as lessons learned. I mean, that is so important. Oh, I do it and I tried and I failed. And it's like,
that's right.
Well, what did you learn? What did you learn?
Okay, so here's a question. Do you feel that in Western civilization, which is very specific, almost like cultural DNA, right? we are, at least I think so. We are very left brain leaning culturally as a culture as a whole.
Oh yeah,
The
we are
one
skewed to
thing
the left, but based on the
huge,
value structure. So the
right?
right hemisphere is right here, right now. What does it care about? It cares about right here and right now, showing
Hmm.
up right here, right now. It's kind of explosive and impulsive and automatic and exciting and adventurous and creative and. But the
Hmm.
left hemisphere is saying, oh, we have linearity across time. So what have you done in the past in order to prepare yourself for where you're going to be in the future? And it's very goal driven and it's very hierarchical, and it wants you to keep climbing the rung, and it always wants more. And so it wants a bigger house, or it wants a bigger bank account, or it wants more. Well, we're neither of these individually. We're both. We
Yes,
are a this and a
but
that.
we're lopsided, right? So does
We are
creativity
left-sided to the value of that left hemisphere of more.
does creativity find its home in the right side of the
Yes,
brain
oh,
then?
absolutely.
Okay,
Because
that's what I figured.
creativity, what is true creativity is a rearrangement of what is, of what possibilities
Yeah,
there
that's right.
are in a new way. It's like let's pick you. Let's say it's writing a song. It's
Hmm.
writing a love song. And it's writing a love song about love, and it is in the moment, and it's a new melody, and it's in whatever key. Oh, let's try this key. It's possibility. It's taking together all the pieces of the puzzle, all the possibilities,
Hmm.
and saying, let's play with all these possibilities, where the left brain's going, all I care about is put the pen, give me the final product, and give me something that we can sell, and that it's going to make money, and it's going to, all the bean counters will be happy, and It doesn't care about what is
And
that
then
process.
basically, so this is perfect. This brings us to this idea of full, a whole brain living, right?
Yeah.
Because the artist in me wants to create, and
Yeah.
if I don't create not only music but everything, like it's just creativity is a
Right.
core need, and a desire, and I feel flow and I feel joy and all of those things. But I also, the left part of me, the entrepreneur in me, wants to productize, monetize, organize systems in a way.
Exactly.
And they work so beautifully together, because you can create over here, and this side of the brain can have a dialogue with this side of the brain. Okay, we can create a course, a book, a music piece, a concert, and we can organize it so that it helps other people, because it brings value. It could be productized, monetized.
Yeah.
And then that gives me more money, more time, more choice, so I can create space, so I can create more.
But yes, exactly. But it's
Right?
the right, exactly. And it's the right hemisphere that is bringing your meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're
Yes.
creating something. You're creating something to help your fellow man. It is so of service. I'm going to create a program that will help other people find their way into their own creativity, because the left brain is saying, we don't care about, how you got there. We care about what you end up with.
Yeah.
And so even in a business, I mean, this is why I keynote at businesses, because the left hemisphere, the leadership, comes in and says, okay, we want our people to feel more creative, and we want blah blah blah. But ultimately, the creatives, they absolutely terrify us, because they're going to come to us and they're going to say, we're going to say to them, okay, we want you to redesign. Okay,
Yeah.
right hemisphere. We need you creatives to redesign our product so that we can sell more beans and make more money. And then the creatives over here are going, oh, okay. And so they come up with these different designs, and they're aesthetic, and they got great shape, and it's just a beautiful
Yeah.
design. And then they say, okay, to the bean counters, here's the new product. And the bean counters are going, okay, well, in order for us to create that new design, it's going to cost X amount to completely redo the system to create the new product. How much exactly are we going to make now on the new design?
Yeah.
And the right brainers are coming in and saying, we can't monetize that for you. But what we can tell you is that if a woman walks into a grocery store, she's going and she has a choice between this design and that design, more than likely she's going to go for this one. And so it's terrifying to the left brain because it needs its assurances. It needs it. And what
Guarantees.
we need to be
Exactly.
sure. And the right
Exactly.
hemisphere is
Yeah.
going, we can't give you any assurances. All we can do is say this is a really rocking design.
Yeah, and I think that's in Western civilization culture, that's part of the reason why in my coaching I find that people they've been so left brain for so long that they have now no meaning, no distinction, no uniqueness to the thing that they do. And they're desperately in need now. And their motivation is, man, I'm sort of stuck. I plateaued in my career, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm going in between seasons of life, and the new season terrifies me. I don't understand how to even manage it. Yeah. And what they need a lot of the time is they need to keep their expertise, their left brain expertise, because they're mastered. Yeah, but they need to add a massive amount of creativity. So they can actually redesign, reimagine, infuse meaning, joy, even the capacity to imagine. Even the capacity to imagine is not there because everything is monopolized with worry on doing things and getting stuff done. Right. And if you just...
Because it always wants more.
We just want more. That's exactly it.
It's a never-ending cycle for the left brain. More.
So you shared with me a beautiful practice that you have, and you and I were talking that I'm getting away for 2 months as well. But what are some maybe practical things that somebody in that sort of category, okay, they are extraordinarily capable, but very much linear, have been living there for a long time, don't have creativity space. What do you recommend to somebody like that when it comes to just simple things that they can implement in their life, like today, this week, or next month? New qualities, new rhythms.
It's a multi-billion-dollar market. I think, the primary tools that our society uses is meditation, which drives a lot of left brainers absolutely insane because it's like, now I'm just thinking about my breath and it's like, man, how fast am I breathing? And now it's like,
that's exactly it.
I don't have time to distract myself with my breath when I could have, finished 3 calls in that amount of time. Yeah. So I think, the first thing is willingness. You need to truly be willing to grow. And what that really means is I have a whole brain. And if I want to grow my business, I need to grow me as a human. And if I'm running this left brain circuitry all the time, I'm really good at that. But what am I missing? I'm missing my meaning. I'm missing my purpose. I'm missing my spouse. I'm missing my children. I'm missing my parents. I'm missing the real meaning in my relationships. And it's like, well, my left brain doesn't have time for that. And it's like, well, okay, so it's going to take willingness, a true commitment to willingness.
An intention,
Yeah, and then following willingness comes awareness. Awareness of the present moment. Can I bring my mind? How can I bring my mind into the present moment? And that, even if I'm just sitting in my office, if I'm thinking about, well, what is the temperature of the air right now on my skin? Well, how much humidity is the air? Do I have the AC on? What does it smell like in here? What am I hearing? What are close sounds and what are distant sounds? And the more we practice, the beauty of the brain is the more we practice anything, everything is a circuit. And the more we practice the circuit, the more it begins to run on itself, the stronger it becomes, and then it becomes habitual. So if I'm really good at all these left brain's things, it's because I've practiced them so much that now they're running on automatic. But
autopilot.
I can bring my mind to the present moment, and then it's going to take commitment. And then it's going to be, okay, how can I identify the things that that I'm doing inside of my brain in my left hemisphere that are in the way of me being in the present moment. And that's where whole brain living and the four characters come into play. Because if my character one is busy doing, taking calls, talking a lot, organizing, analyzing, okay, well, if that noise is going on in my brain, if I'm running that circuit, then that's in the way of me being in the present and feeling deep inner peace. Okay, so I can get to know that part of myself, really recognize that part of myself, value that part of myself, and then set it aside and be one of my other characters of my right brain. So for me, I mean, to me, that's there's a format here about the anatomy of the brain and the skill sets of each of those four different groups of cells, those four profiles, character profiles. And when I can shed and quiet my character one, the language centers, and I can quiet the emotions of my fears of the future or of the past, and I can actually bring my mind into the experience of the present moment, which is that right emotional. And then even in quieting that and simply move into that sense of awe and gratitude that, oh my God, I'm alive.
Wow,
And
what an amazing.
as soon as you find that awe, it's everything. They're all right there competing for the microphone inside of our head.
And you were designed, wonderfully designed, to have all four.
Oh, magnificently designed to be a whole brain. I mean,
Wow.
I truly believe that is the future evolution of humanity, and we will get there one brain, one conscious being at a time, and conscious not simply to the rational conscious brain, but to living a whole brain life. What am I wired for? I'm wired at the level of the right thinking tissue inside of my brain to experience awe and wonder. And when do we, if I'm a busy person living a left brain life because we lived in a society that's skewed to the values of that left brain of more and more and more, can I stand on a beach at sunset and just watch that big golden ball dissolve into the ocean, project the essence of what I am as an energy being into the energy of the ball and dissolve into the water? Wow.
Without checking my phone.
What? Without looking at my phone or videotaping it. Oh, yeah, let's videotape it and share with everybody else because that's what the left brain does. And it's like, no.
Exactly.
Become what is around you. Allow yourself to observe and experience and be that. And then you realize, oh, I can do that. And then when I'm all tied up in a knot over here and I've got this deadline coming and I'm all stressed out, then I know I can set that stress aside and step into being the wonder of what I am. And that's where our brilliance is. That's where our genius comes from. It's not already rigidly set in the box of right and wrong and good and bad.
You know, a few years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I gleaned that from the Jewish faith, a practice called the Sabbath, right? And basically the Sabbath is a full day of complete delight and awe and not producing anything.
Yeah.
And I remember, because I'm a sort of a driven guy, right? The first probably year or two, it would be the most depressing thing to try to do because it felt like withdrawal. It felt like I had to check my email. I had to get something done. Right. And it felt not fun. And then it slowly, as you describe, you're training your mind, that part of your brain, to speak more loudly, to get the mic. Yeah. And now it's an essential part of my life, right? I Sabbath every week. Yeah. It creates space. It drives ideas. It drives joy, delight, wonder, all of the things that you describe. And then that sort of trickles into the rest of my life, including the business side, the entrepreneurial side, the serving others side. And I just, it's incredible how hard it is.
You
Oh
know,
my
part of
gosh.
what is hard about that is that, and it is as soon as you say to anybody, okay, we're going to take your phone away for, you're going to put it down for a day, is there's this scream
Yes.
inside of ourselves that
Yeah,
says, you're tearing away a part of me that is so
that's right.
important.
Yeah.
And most of us, many of us, think that we have to satiate the scream. And we don't have to satiate the scream. We can simply listen to the scream and say, we're okay. We can scream. It's kind of like hunger.
Yeah, I
Do
like
I
that.
have to eat every time I'm hungry? No,
Uh-huh.
it's just the body saying, okay, here's a reminder. But it's the body scream. And when we become comfortable inside of the scream, inside of the discomfort, inside of that communication, and say, it's okay, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do this. It's like, feel it for 90 seconds, let it run its course, and then go back to the present moment of joy or of whatever. I always tell my friends, I don't mind if you're miserable as long as you remember to enjoy it.
That's
Be miserable as
a great
hell.
quote. Yeah.
Just be willing and aware that you are capable of feeling that misery or that hunger or that desperation of, oh my God, I got to check my email. Be okay in that.
I have a couple of I want to talk about the course that you're offering right now and how people can find you, because I find you just fascinating and wonderful. I have a couple of questions though before we get there. One is this. Okay, if we just pause, breathe, and say, okay, Jill, what is the secret to human flourishing?
What is the secret of human flourishing? I think it's living whole.
Mm-hmm.
Whole. I am biologically a this and a that. I'm a present moment, inventive, creative, amazing life form in the world. And I am linearity of cross time and analytical and rational and organizational. I am all of it. So I think to truly flourish, I need to be full.
Okay, second question. Think of yourself, pick a moment. It doesn't have to be that moment, the TED Talk moment, right? But a moment that it was a fork in the road for you. And you're that person in that fork in the road. You're that younger self. What would you say to yourself in that moment? What moment was it for you?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's many, right? But pick one.
Well, my biggest fork in the road was when I had the stroke.
Yeah.
And I have no capacity. The left hemisphere is completely offline. Jill Bolte Taylor, the ego center, died that day. Her likes, her dislikes, her climbing the Harvard ladder, all of what she had created in the external world was now gone. That was a different person. That person died. And all I had was a conscious connection to this massive collection of cells that I felt like felt like a ton of lead, and I could do nothing, and I was aware I could do nothing, and I viewed myself as an organic mass of waste.
Mm.
That's
depressing.
It could be. It could be. If I had the ability to have a left brain that made the judgment that was bad.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I didn't have that. All I had was, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
It's all I had. All I had was a thread of life in this body with a brain that was now not functional in the left hemisphere. So all of my relationships were gone. All of my education was gone. All of my everything was gone, but I had life.
And if you would say something to Jill in that moment right now from now,
Yeah.
what would you say?
I have life.
You have life.
That's the miracle. I have the miracle. What I do with it is up to me and my cells.
And I think it formed, I think how you speak, how you show up now is thoroughly informed by that moment and by the choices you've made.
I'm alive. I'm alive. I don't have to have the answers. I don't have to have the proof. I don't have to have anything because I have life. And for all those people who have the answers or have the proof, how much life do they have? I am so embodied with the phenomenal of my own existence that it explodes me into the world.
Have you, it's so, you never use the term, but I'm curious. Don't you think you had a religious experience, a supernatural religious experience?
No, I did not.
Fascinating to me. It's fascinating to me that you don't think that.
This is why I did not. Religious, first of all, religion and spirituality, to me.
Well, let's say spiritual, right? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because religiosity requires the doctrine and the story.
Yeah, it's the rules.
And the
Yeah.
and,
No,
and the past and the future.
if you remove stereotypes,
right.
It just feels to me, even the language that you use, miracle. It's a spiritual, maybe it's transcendent is probably a good word.
But how do we as living beings have that experience of feeling transcendent, feeling connected to something greater than ourselves, or dissolving into a consciousness within which we exist? How does that happen? That has to happen because every ability we have,
I agree.
because we have cells that perform that function. Mm-hmm. So the only cells I had left online were those cells that essentially were my portal to the consciousness of me as a living being being squeezed out of the consciousness of the whole into me being an individual body. But I didn't have the individual mind, and I didn't have the individual emotions because those were in my cognition that had gone offline. They were part of my brain that went offline.
Yeah.
But the part of my brain I still had was the part of me that felt connected to all that was. And so I was simply running that circuit because it was the only circuit I had left.
Mm-hmm.
So then, going back to your original question of how do you take this person who is living a life, who's not finding a lot of meaning, a lot of purpose, who's kind of bored with their life, blah, 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 one foot in front of the other. Well, they're way over there in the left hemisphere. So I lost all of that. But what I gained was this connection to this awareness of, oh my gosh, I am as big as the universe, because the cells in my left brain that define the boundaries of where I begin and end were offline. So I didn't perceive myself as an individual. I didn't have an ego center. I didn't have a past. I didn't have a future because all those cells were offline. So all I had was the wonder of, oh my God, I'm alive. And then it was like, okay, well, what do I do with this? Well, I do this well. So I started doing that really well. And then it was like, okay, well, how do I get my body back? How do I define the boundaries of my body again? How do I regain language again? How do I work using that consciousness of I am alive and exuding that over into the left hemisphere in order to do cellular repair? So I used that consciousness and that awareness to regain left hemisphere skill sets so I could become an individual again. I could define where I begin and end. I could give rebirth to Jill Bolte Taylor. I could relearn the science of what she knew. I can redefine myself in the bigger picture of right and wrong and good and bad in a social world. But it's all cellular. And because I lost that left hemisphere, what I gained though was just this consciousness of wonder. So that's
Mm-hmm.
where I begin. And when we begin as the consciousness of wonder, and we are when we're born, we're the consciousness of wonder. We don't have education yet. We don't have language yet. We don't even know where we begin and end when we're born. We're just flailing around, right? Trying to give stimulation to the brain so it can create some order out of the disorder. We are this magnificent biological specimen that is capable of so much beauty in the world. And I truly believe that it all begins with that consciousness of when we're born, when we are just this magnificent biological creature. Oh my gosh, with all the potential for life. And then we start turning on that left hemisphere and we become smaller and smaller and smaller in possibility as we gain more skill over in that left hemisphere, because that's how we start defining ourselves.
That's
And
right.
as soon
Yeah.
as I identify myself as a this, a that, or the other, then what about the other opposites of the this, the that, and the other,
You
the possibility?
overdefine. Yeah, you're overdefine yourself, and then you lose the gift
Yeah,
that you are to the world. I
yeah.
think that's a really good way of putting it. Um, so Jill, can you tell us about the course
Yes.
that you're doing? It's really cool.
Thank you. So the book, I wrote this book, Whole Brain Living, in 2021, and I wrote it because the TED Talk we just passed 30 million views, and it was a big burst of this experience into the world. So many people became familiar with Jill Bolte Taylor. So many people ended up with a reverence for me. But the
Yep.
goal for me was to have reverence for oneself. I don't need you to revere me. Revere what you are. And because if you revere what you are, and I revere what I am as a biological phenomenon, this miracle of being human, now we're going to have a completely different level of conversation, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I wrote this book, Whole Brain Living, because it was like, how do I give a program to how to help people know what they are as a biological creature and these 4 different characters, so that we know what our options are. And so now I'm running this deeper dive into whole brain living online, and it's the best way to communicate with me is my website is drjilltaylor, drjilltaylor.com. And the course is going to be in July of 2025, and it's 5-hour deep dive into whole brain living material. We will meet 4 times, 75 minutes each time. And it's me in full me. And it will follow the lead of the whole brain living book, but there will be home play in between. We will meet once a week for 4 weeks on Wednesdays, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And it's really designed to help you get to know who's who inside of you. And
Oh, that's
once you
great.
know who's who inside of you,
Yeah.
then it's like you can gain the power to choose moment by moment who and how you want to be in the world under any circumstance, regardless of what's going on around you. And in this world where so many people are getting lost in their own emotional pain, be that politically or be that what's going on in the world, oh my gosh, what a time to be alive. This is how we can find our own peace.
Yes. Thank you. So I'll put all of that in the show notes. Jill, I don't know about you. I believe in transcendent experiences, and talking to you feels like a transcendent experience, because you do connect us
Beautiful.
to our whole self,
Yeah.
how we were intended to be. And I was one of the guys hooked on your TED Talk originally, and that's why we ended up connecting the first time. But I do feel that you bring so much very practical, incredible value into the world, especially the left brain leaning civilization that is the West, that causes a lot of achievement, a lot of wealth, and also a lot of stress, a lot of people who just don't have not enough meaning in their life.
Well, and first of all, thank you for your kindness. But also, I find that the Eastern world is so pulled now and almost compromised because they're living inside of this world where the left brain is so skewed to the left.
Yeah.
And so even when their religious or spiritual dimensions are more of the right brain, they're now having to manage that in this left brain
Interesting.
skewed world.
Yeah.
And there's a scream, literally an internal scream going on inside of those populations because they're just, trying to figure out how do we bring into balance our basic fundamental beliefs with the world that we live in. And I think that that's what a lot of teenagers are dealing with. I remember being so idealistic as a teenager in possibility versus the world we were inheriting, and it was just like, no. So I really get when those different parts of the brain go into conflict with one another based on fundamental values. It's how do we manage that, and how do we contribute then and help grow that part of the world that we want to contribute to without getting depressed or pulled down or saddened and or depressed, and all these psychiatric illnesses that are going on because we feel like we don't have any control. I do have control over who and how I want to be in the world
Yep,
in
you
any
do.
moment
Mm-hmm.
because I know what my choices are.
And you are fully equipped if we can just access those 4 parts of the brain
Exactly.
and have them have a dialogue and have
And they're
maybe
all important. They're all important.
Exactly.
And they all have value. We just need to find a balance.
That's right. Awesome. Jill, an absolute joy as always. We'll get coffee when you're in Austin next time.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good to see you again.
You too.